Tonight, Omicron has wiped out the Delta variant in the U.S. It now accounts for 99.9% of COVID infections, according to the CDC. It took 2 months for the highly contagious strain to take over. And as Omicron spreads, it is increasing the problems with both types of COVID tests, the PCR test and those rapid antigen tests.
And now we're learning the wrong COVID test in the wrong phase of your illness could backfire. So what's the solution? CBS13 investigative reporter Julie Watts is getting answers.
But today's been about a 3-hour wait.
As if the wait for COVID test appointments wasn't bad enough.
What a test.
These days, you may be done with your quarantine by the time you get your PCR test results.
Good job.
But while rapid antigen tests are quicker, infectious disease experts warn with Omicron, you can't trust a negative rapid result.
The antigen tests are having problems picking up Omicron early in infections.
UCSF lab expert Dr. Tim Hamill explains while there is a time and a place for rapid antigen tests, it's not at the beginning of an infection when rapid tests are really only useful if they're positive.
And you have to understand that as the virus has changed through these different variants, testing strategies have needed to change with that.
Dr. Travis Wilkes, medical director at mail-order testing company EmpowerDX, explains rapid antigen tests performed better with the Delta variant. With Omicron, it can be 5 days into the infection before they finally return a positive result, providing a false sense of security while people spread the virus. But PCR tests aren't perfect either.
We found the PCR test maybe a little bit too sensitive.
That's why a growing number of experts are now recommending a hybrid testing approach. PCR tests in the beginning of an infection to detect and document the virus early, rapid antigen tests at the end of your required quarantine once your symptoms are gone to help confirm you're no longer infectious. What's the concern about a PCR test towards the end of your infection?
You can't have persistent positivity where you remain positive on a PCR test long after, because it can pick up on fragments of non-contagious RNA.
CDC guidelines exempt you from testing requirements for 90 days after a positive PCR, which is actually another reason you should get a PCR test early to document the COVID. Otherwise, you could be prevented from travel or events months later with no way to prove your positive PCR test is from a previous infection.
Rapid antigen tests are good at telling you whether you're contagious or not at the end of an infection.
But remember, rapid tests do have a high rate of false negatives, so consider multiple tests.
If we do the test twice and the first one's a false negative, maybe the second one won't be.
As for those long waits for PCR test appointments and results, well, a growing number of companies like EmpowerDX and Pixel can mail you a PCR test in 24 hours with guaranteed results in under 48 hours at little or no cost.